Shabbat Shalom. We're going to begin this short series that we're titling Karvenu. And as I said earlier, it's really an introduction to the event Karvenu. And so today I want to talk to you about why Karvenu. What exactly are we trying to accomplish? Why are we doing this? Well, I've got a couple of reasons for this. And since I don't have 3 points for my message, but only 2 today, I don't know. Maybe we'll go to lunch a little earlier. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe I get a little preachy today, right? And make up, another 10 minutes. I don't know. Depends how hungry I get while I'm here. Maybe I can. You don't know my notes, so I can shorten it a little bit. And I also have just 1 sheet of notes, although that really means nothing. Well, see, Karvenu is our freedom event. Speaking of the event, or actually even going back a little more, the word Karvenu means draw us near. So it really is a prayer all contained in 1 word. So it's asking the Lord, draw us near to you. And it is the root word in the Hebrew is karav. And we know this word. You know this word. This is the umbrella term, the root word for the umbrella term for all of the sacrifices. You see, the umbrella term for all of the sacrifices is korban. And you've read this word. This word actually shows in most versions of the New Covenant scriptures of the New Testament, where it says, the man that says, I can't help my parents because everything that I have dedicated it to God. And so most versions actually use the word korban. So it is korban, dedicated to God. Well, korban is actually the umbrella term for all of the sacrifices. So when you read Leviticus, you begin in chapter 1, 2, 3, and then all of the sacrifices are a form of korban. But what is the connection then? Because if this word means sacrifices in general, how come the root word means draw us near? Well, I'm glad you asked. Very smart question. Because you see, a sacrifice is the path that God has provided to us to draw near to Him. We draw near to Him through the blood that He has provided for us. Now, He gave us the blood of Yeshua for our eternal salvation and cleansing and atonement. But in this realm, in this world, in this tabernacle, on the earthly tabernacle, then we approach Him through the blood of the sacrifices. And the reason is that the active ingredient of blood is life. So it's because of the life that is in the blood of the sacrifices. He provides this way for us to draw near to Him. And so that is what our event Karvenu is wanting to accomplish. We want to draw near to the Lord. And in doing so, things happen. And even for it to happen, He does some things to bring us close to us. So He's going to remove some obstacles out of our lives so that we're able to draw even closer to Him. Some of you may know this actually in a different name. You may know this as Kairos. This is what we have taken and we made it Messianic, really. That's what we've done. And so we had a meeting this past week, and Pastor Charlotte, she showed me not only the agenda for the day, but the plan and the flow of all of it, and you are going to be blessed. It's such a beautiful program, really, that event that we're going to have in walking ourselves. In a way, it is taking Egypt out of those who came out of Egypt. And all of us come from Egypt, do we not? Amen. And so we need to get some of that Egypt out of us. Amen. And this is what that is designed to do. So I understand that not all of us are going to be able to attend Karvenu, right? It's okay. We understand that that's the way it's going to be because we are trusting that the Lord has a timing for you to go through this. And so if it is not at this time, we're planning to do it again after the holidays, after the fall feasts. Somewhere around October, maybe early November, we're going to do it, and it will be the same. It will be, we're going to learn, actually, probably it's going to be better. So we will learn how to do it better. And but the essence of it is going to be the same, and we plan to do this maybe at least 3 times a year, 4 times a year, so that we will all have the opportunity to go through it. So it's not a one-time event, it's actually something greater than that we're trying to accomplish. Now, the first reason the first why of Karvenu, of why you should consider and you should come to Karvenu, has to do with the Torah itself. You see, here at Sukkat Shalom, one of the primary ways that we do Torah is through what we've studied and we've made a reference today, through the justice. Through justice. In Matthew 23, Yeshua said that the weightier matters of the Torah is justice, mercy, and faithfulness. And justice refers to some of the categories of commandments in the Torah that some people call the civil law. Well, yes, the core system of Israel was based on these commandments, specifically on these types of commandments. But these types of commandments are designed for every person to have compassion on one another, to help deliver each one from oppressive circumstances that we all may have in life. We remember the event, the occasion in which a woman caught in adultery was brought to Yeshua. And we know the story, and he said, if you guys are without sin, then go ahead and start the stoning right now. They were not able to, because they had set up this woman. They brought her to Yeshua, caught in adultery. But how can you have adultery by yourself? Right? There has to be another party. Where is the other party? Right? Why didn't you bring the man? Are you possibly in sin, even as you are doing this? So if you are not in sin, then you can start the stoning. But I think you have something to hide here. You are setting all this up in a way that is really oppressive to this woman. So what Yeshua did was not condoning what she had done. There were 2 things going on there. There was what she did, which she actually did, but there was also what was being done to her. He saved her from what was being done to her, from an oppressive circumstance in her life. In that regard, he was just. He showed justice. Justice is focused not on who is guilty and what have they done and what is the consequence, but who is oppressing who here? Who is oppressing who? And so justice renders a compassionate decision, exactly what he did, render a compassionate decision to deliver this woman from oppression. That is the weightier matters of the Torah. That is the Torah according to Yeshua. That's how we intend to live out the Torah of God. And so what we're trying to do with Karvenu is an outwork of this weightier matters of the Torah. It's a helping one another to be free from oppressive circumstances that may have come at any point in our lives. So in this way, this is very much an outwork of the Torah. This is how we walk out a Torah life in our congregation. Freedom ministry is often confused with church practice or church teachings, or definitely non-Judaism, right? And here we're in a movement that we are called Messianic Judaism, right? So freedom, not only is it shunned, but it is actually ignored. It's absolutely not even looked into. But that is the very thing that we need as a movement. Amen. We need an outwork of the Torah that is all about compassion and being free from oppression. The very things that are plaguing our congregations and our members, that bring unhealthy practices to our movement, can be solved through freedom ministry. And freedom ministry is simply an outwork of Torah. It is an outwork of compassionate decisions, just like Yeshua modeled for us. It is the weightier, the most priority things of the Torah. So how ironic that a movement that is seeking to go after the Torah is plagued with problems that could easily be solved by understanding the simple things of the Torah. It's like we have the solution right in front of our eyes. We can't grab it, we can't see it, we can't use it because we don't understand it. But that's what we want to reverse here in our congregation. Take the Torah reading for today, Leviticus 25. We read about the sabbatical year, not only the Shemitah, which is the sabbatical year that happens every 7 years, but also the year of Jubilee that happens every 49 years, and then the 50th year is the year of Jubilee. Very similar to what we have about between Passover and Pentecost, Shavuot. We have count 49 days, and then on the 50th day, that is the day of Shavuot. Well, you count 49 years, and then the 50th is the year of Jubilee. So in this year, we're reading that Leviticus 25:10. If you have it on the screen, Leviticus 25:10. You shall thus consecrate the 50th year and proclaim a release. Proclaim a release. The word for release, I have it here for you in parentheses. The Hebrew word is drol. Very hard to say, right? Drol. You have these Israeli R's right in the middle of them, right? Drol. It's the word for release. So you shall consecrate the 50th year and proclaim a release through the land to all its inhabitants. It shall be a jubilee for you, and each of you shall return to his own property, and each of you shall return to his family. Now, in the chapter, it talks about Israelites who have fallen into hard times. Either they have had to sell their land to pay their debts, or even sell themselves into slavery so that they can compensate for their debts. So this is an oppressive situations that come upon them. We have an example of this in the book of Ruth. In the book of Ruth, we have Elimelech with his wife Naomi and their children. There is a famine, there's a drought, there's a lack of rain that results into a famine, a lack of food. And they decide to move to Moab. Now, in order for you to do that, for them to do that, they actually sold their land. We know this because at the end of the book, Boaz buys back the land that belonged to them. So they sold their land, they moved to Moab, We know the story a little bit. Well, that's an oppressive situation that came upon them. We don't know all of the details of why it came upon them, and we can learn some things by some of the details in the book, but we'll get into that book at another time. It's actually the book of Ruth is what you read for Shavuot.
Yes.
So maybe we can do that.
Yes.
Although we're going to have Karvenu, we're going to be talking a lot about exactly being free from the oppressive situations, similar to what they were under. But then what's being proclaimed on that day, on the year of Jubilee, is this release to these people who have fallen into hard times, who have fallen into oppressive situations, and have to even sell themselves into slavery. Well, in verse 39, Leviticus 25:39, we read, if a countryman of yours becomes so poor with regard to you, meaning he has a debt with you that he can repay. So if he becomes so poor with regard to you that he sells himself to you, you shall not subject him to a slave's service. Verse 40, he shall be with you as a hired man, as if he were a sojourner. He shall serve with you until the year of Jubilee. Right? So we understand this. Until the year of Jubilee. On the year of Jubilee, they can go free. Right? Verse 41. He shall then go out from you, he and his sons with him, and shall go back to his family, that he may return to the property of his forefathers. Notice that phrase there, he shall go out from you, shall go out from you. You know, in the Hebrew, this is yatzah. The word is yatzah. Now, if you've been around me a little bit, you know that I talk about this word over and over again. This is the normal and plain word for the Exodus. Now, isn't that fitting? That when these people experience this release that is being proclaimed, when they're able to return to the land that belonged to their ancestor families, it is compared to an exodus. They were under oppression, and the Lord issued a decree to deliver them from the oppression that they were under. And the Lord calls that a going out like an exodus. Freedom from oppression is a personal exodus. And not only do we need, again, to be free from Egypt, which in Messiah we are, but as we go into the wilderness, then the Lord begins a work in us that lasts to the rest of the time of our lives, in which He wants to deliver us and continue. This is a progressive sanctification in our lives, through which He works all of these things that we picked up, really, that we have been under as we were in our slavery, in our oppression. That is Torah. That is the very heart of Torah. That is freedom ministry. Freedom ministry is an outwork of the Torah itself. That is one reason why you should come to Karvenu. This is one of the two reasons that I'm giving you today. Now, in Isaiah 61, he actually quotes this passage. Let's go there to Isaiah 61. We know this passage very well. Verse 1. It says, "The Ruach of Adonai Elohim is on me, because Adonai has anointed me to proclaim good news to the poor." To proclaim good news to the poor. He has sent me to bind up the brokenhearted, to proclaim liberty, to the captives. You see, he's quoting Leviticus 25:10. So this proclamation in Leviticus 25:10 was to all the land, to all its inhabitants. But because Israel is in captivity in Babylon, now the application is to all the captives. So proclaim the year of Jubilee, this freedom, this release to all the captives. And the prophet calls this, the Spirit of God calls this the good news. The good news. Now, we also know that Yeshua is going to quote this verse. We read it this morning. We're going to read it in a moment again. He says, the Spirit of the Lord is upon me, and he quoted Isaiah, and he said, this scripture has been fulfilled today before your eyes. And he went around and preached the good news. He's quoting Isaiah 61, using the same phrase, the good news. This proclamation of freedom is the good news. But it doesn't just have its roots in Isaiah 61, because Isaiah 61, in turn, has its roots back in Leviticus 25. The roots of the gospel, the good news, go all the way to Leviticus 25. This proclamation of release is the gospel, is the good news. That you who are indebted to the point of slavery now are proclaimed free. Fantastic. A personal exodus. That's what the gospel is. And it has its roots in Leviticus. Amazing. We could have never suspected that. You couldn't make it up to find the roots of the gospel actually in Leviticus. But there it is. Very clear. It says, Isaiah 61, it says, proclaim liberty. The same passage, the same word from Leviticus 25. Liberty to the captives. And the opening of the prison to those who are bound. Verse 2. To proclaim the year of Adonai's favor and the day of our God's vengeance. To proclaim the year of his favor, of his Ratzon in Hebrew. That's the word for delight. God is delighted in this year, in proclaiming. What is this year? It's the year of Jubilee. But now it is used, the concept of the year is also used for the deliverance of the captives from Babylon. And Yeshua himself is going to use the same phrase now, not only to be applied to the literal Jubilee, which is its roots, not only to the deliverance from Babylon, which it already happened in the time of Yeshua, hundreds of years ago, but even to every person who was under the oppression of the enemy. Because he went around delivering people from demonic oppression, healing the blind, healing the lame. He went around bringing good news to everyone under oppression, because that is the heart of this year of proclamation, of this release. But notice that it also says, and the day of our God's vengeance. Vengeance is the price of redemption. You see, redemption has a price, and the price is paid to the captor, to the one who's holding the slave, right? But what did the Lord pay Babylon? He paid vengeance. To the ones who were oppressing, he paid judgment. It's the same that Yeshua did with our spiritual enemy, with Satan himself. He brought judgment upon him. The vengeance of God, and we are free. The price of redemption, yes, it's paid by Yeshua, it's paid by his blood, but it is a price of redemption in the fact that it brings judgment upon the enemy. When he rose from the dead, he was victorious over all the forces of evil because he executed vengeance on them. So the year of God's delight, the year of our freedom comes at the same time and because of the vengeance of our God. When he defeats the Pharaoh that is holding us back so that we can go out free. That's the gospel. That's the gospel. That is freedom. Freedom is the gospel. Worked out not only initially, but in a continuing way, in a continual salvation from the power of sin over our lives, from the power of oppression over our lives. Freedom is the gospel, and it is the Torah. That's why we do Karvenu. That's what Karvenu is all about. In Luke 4, we read about Yeshua, and we know this phrase, this passage in Yeshua. We just referred to it. Verse 18, it says, "The Ruach Adonai is on me because he has anointed me to proclaim the gospel, to proclaim the same release, right, to the poor. He has sent me to proclaim release." When you read Luke in the Hebrew New Covenant Scriptures, it is a translation. We know it wasn't written originally in Hebrew. We know it was written in Greek, although it was spoken, right, by Yeshua himself. But it was recorded for us in Greek, right? So when you have it in Hebrew, it's actually a translation. And so when you read that translation, because they know Scripture, they know the Torah, they know Leviticus, they know Isaiah, they chose exactly the right word for the right context. So when you read Luke 4 in Hebrew, you are going to read the same Hebrew word, Torah. Same as in Isaiah, same as in Leviticus 25. So to proclaim release to the captives and recovery of sight to the blind, to set free the oppressed, verse 19, to proclaim the year of Adonai's favor, to proclaim the year of the Lord's favor. All right, so that's the first reason. Let me give you the second reason. It's a little more practical. The second reason why you should come to Karvenu is because Karvenu is going to become the process through which you get deeply involved at Sukkat Shalom. So if you want to, if you've discovered this and you're here and this is your family and this is the place where you want to serve and you want to grow and you want to be planted, then you naturally want to come to Karvenu. Because this Karvenu is going to become the on-ramp for you to get on the freeway of Karvenu. And the reason is this, are we trying to make you prove yourself? No, that's not even the spirit in which we operate, right? You know that. But what we're trying to do is this. We're trying to infuse each one of us, all of us, with our core values so that we can minister out of a same mind, out of the same core values. You see, in order for you to represent Sukkat Shalom, you need to be Sukkat Shalom. In order for you to minister our core values, you have to have these core values in you. And central to who we are is the Torah itself, manifested in freedom. And so this is very much who we are. And so in order for you to become us, this is exactly the way to do it. So the reason to come and to do Karvenu is to jump in the pool with us and say, yes, I want to play. I want to play with you. I want to have a part in this ministry. And there is a part for you in this ministry. We've designed it that way. We talked about a little bit last week about the situational leadership that I've learned at school, right? How we've taken us in the areas of relationship and tasks, and we have walked these 4 quadrants, right? Or these 3 quadrants of low relationship and low task, right? I'm getting to know you, so I'm not going to ask you to do anything like, that has too much of a responsibility, right? But then the more we get to know each other, now we have relationship, high relationship, and low task. Okay, we're tracking, we're really making progress, because the next move is to move into high relationship and high task. So now that we know that we have this relationship, and not only is it your desire to be one of us, but you are actually walking it, then you're ready to work. And we're getting closer and closer to that, and we're going to jump into that as we continue this here in the summer. But this is the way to getting deeply involved, to having a ministry, to having an expression that is you and that is also us, by becoming one of us. This is very much being baptized, being immersed into who we are. Because that's exactly who we, even as elders and as staff, that's what we do. This is what we do. And so we want you to so much be one of us. The vision of Sukkat Shalom is to see a community that is experiencing Yeshua, the Torah, and Revelation for the end times. Our vision is to see a community experiencing, not just talking about the Torah, not just talking about Yeshua, but experiencing Yeshua. The Spirit of the Lord is upon me to set people free. That is experiencing Yeshua. Experiencing the Torah, right? To proclaim liberty, to proclaim the gospel, the good news. That is the Torah. So we want to experience Yeshua and his ministry, the Torah, and see it being lived out in community. The Karvenu is a big part of this.